I am so excited about your new book that I just want to get straight into talking about it. Can you tell me a little bit about why you wrote it and what inspired you to do so?
Sure. So, Own Your Glow is my second book. I wrote a book 2012 called Mama Glow about pregnancy. And this book is really an opportunity for women to embrace self-care as a pathway to empowerment. It's to me, it's like an invitation to come home to yourself. So it's a way for us to really peel back layers and examine our beliefs around the things that we desire, the stories we've told us ourselves about who we are and who we're meant to become, and to fully step into our power. I think it was stirring inside of me over a period of years, which it took to write because there were moments that I would write and then not. And so by the time I was really ready to receive the inspiration,
Yeah.
the book came through. And so it's been a process. I would say the first book I wrote in like 5 months. This one was like fits and starts of writing, but I'm just glad it's here. I'm just so glad it's out of my
It's
system,
been good.
finally birthed. And yeah, it's really, I think the inspiration was really this modern woman that I feel like is pushing too hard and competing to the degree of to where it's to her own detriment. And I think that we have to get out of these cycles of catty competition and really step into our power in a way that we embrace all women, that we bless all women, that we pull every woman up with us as we make our way through life.
Yeah. And it sounds so empowering and incredibly empathic. How do you feel that we as a collective, as women collectively, can pull each other up? What do you think is the core move?
Yeah, I think that as women, it's our responsibility that when we're in spaces, especially when we're the minority in spaces, so say it's a business, workspaces, places of leadership, sitting on boards, whatever it is, that when we're like the only one or one few, that it's our responsibility to make sure that other people get into those rooms. And so what it looks like for me is if I'm in a position to bring people to the table. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm sitting on a board for an organization, and we have like a big event happening in the new year. And I'm putting in all of my girls. I'm bringing in all the people that I know are qualified, but that would never otherwise have the opportunity. Sure. I think it's an opportunity also for us to think about, who do we talk about in rooms when they're not there? Sometimes it's not just somebody advocating for you in front of you, but advocating for you in spaces where you're not, right? And doors that are closed. And so I think it's that. I think it's also, lifting the next generation by embracing, younger women. I think that there's so much competition between younger women and older women. And it's like, we need to embrace the younger generations and help educate and help support them on their journeys, and then also help them not make the mistakes that we made. I think it also looks like leadership in terms of how we design workspaces and design spaces for women. When women are in the workforce, they are in spaces that are largely designed for men. Yeah. And so it's like, if you want more women to matriculate into these businesses, especially in tech communities and places where there's fewer women, then you have to design for women. And so I think that we have to be able to imagine what spaces look like with us in it and with us in mind. And then we have to work together collectively to create those spaces so that we can thrive. And it's not just about saying, oh, we're making space for women and we're, we have women on our board, or we have women in our collective, or we have women, in our business, but it's about making room for women. Like really not just, on paper saying that you really want women to be feeling comfortable and you want to, create space for them, but in real life, making room for them to also sit at the table.
Amazing, right. And I think that hearing you talk about this, it makes me think of something. I think it's very easy to act in a way where you can, say, like a picture on Instagram or do something that's easy to do, but creating space and actually allowing the room to exist, for me, are two things that join. But I think, like you're saying, we need to pay attention to actually really making the room and doing it in action, as well as, well, that's what it sounds like, action as well as thinking and talking about it at the same time. So it sounds incredibly powerful. When it comes to self-care for you, what is your number one priority? What's the one thing you can't do without?
Yeah, for me, it's like self-care is a opportunity to check in on a moment-to-moment basis on what it is that I need most. So, sometimes I have plans, right? Like I'm supposed to go do this or do that thing. And I just assess, daily. I'm like, okay, what do I really need right now? What would be, most beneficial to me right now? What are some of the things that, I could cut out of my schedule today so that I could feel, more comfortable or move with more ease? So some days I look and I'm like, I gotta cancel some of this, right? Right. And other day, and it might be like a totally normal workload. And I'm just like, I'm at that point in my cycle where I'm close to, my bleeding phase. I want to, skim back on this. Or it might be that I had a very long day in terms of using a lot of my energy, mental energy, and now I have to go do something. So I use it as a moment-to-moment basis to use for setting boundaries around what I'm going to do or not going to do. I also use it as an opportunity to commune with myself and love on my body and slow down, and to be really intentional about taking a step away from the world and into a space for relishing in who I am and what I want to evoke in terms of a feeling in space. Like, I want to feel nourished, I want to feel loved, I want to feel supported. And so I have to do that for myself, right? And so I think it's a discipline around also what we want to cultivate in our lives. Do you want more love in your life? Do you want more gratitude? Do you want more nurturing? Do you want more, grace? And I think we have to offer ourselves those things through action, and not just say, oh yeah, I want a life like this, but then you don't design your life around those principles.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I mean, hearing you talk about this, I feel like I was talking to my partner about this yesterday, about how when it comes to sort of this time of year, people are kind of rounding down and they're thinking about the following year. And there's a lot of thinking about what you want to bring in. And like you're saying, is it ease? Is it love? Is it clarity? Which is kind of the feeling space. But I often think that the feeling space also comes with being challenged in it. So if you want to be kind of hearing you talk about this, I'd love to hear what your idea around it is. But so if you're saying you want to feel more love and you want to do that and you actually have to act in that way to bring it to yourself, do you ever feel like you mirrored the opposite in terms of
what you bring towards you?
Yeah.
No, what I do feel is this. I think that light attracts light, and I think that darkness attracts light also. Yeah. So I think that, in certain settings, when you are, when you're bearing light and when you're bringing love and when you're being positive and whatever it is that you're doing, it floods a space, right? It fills up every aspect of a space when you bring that energy. Same with negative energy. But in positive energy, it fills every crevice, right? And what happens is that there are people that are going to be wildly attracted based upon that energy you emit, right? And there are going to be people who, some people are going to feed you and some people are going to drain you, right? Some people are going to be the ones that you're like, oh my God, this is like my soul sister, my friend, whatever. And other people are going to be like, I need a yoga class after hanging out with them. Like, this was intense, right? And so it's like, you have to then use discernment at that point to decide who belongs in your ether, you know, who belongs in your space. So if you think about it like this, there is a filtration system. Like if you have like a sieve, it filters things out, but there's certain things that don't get filtered out that then you have to use your own discernment to make sure that it belongs. So with that, I mean, most of your positive energy will repel people who aren't on the level to be with you. So pretty much most of those things are filtered out on their own. And the very few things that come through, you're the one who has to do that managing of those energies, of either, you know, basically sending them on their way or integrating. And so, so I do feel like, you know, making the choice to act in a certain way, to like, you know, set an intention and then align your actions with that intention, will send you on the path towards, you know, finding that grace, right? But I do think that, you know, we are so programmed to not stick to the nurturing of our intentions. Like we plant a seed and then we walk away and we go do all these other things. And then when we come back, we're like, oh, it's not doing anything, right? Because we don't have the patience, we don't have the perseverance, we don't have the grace. So we have to move in the direction of understanding the beauty and the sanctity of female processes that are much slower, right? Any process around cultivation takes time. We think about the nurturing of a baby in a womb, it takes time. We think about plants that are growing underground, root systems are laid before those plants hit the surface, right? So I think it's like we have to slow down and look at like all these processes that we value the outcome of. We have to really value the process that it takes to get there. And I think that nurturing is really important. And if we learn to start to nurture the seeds that are the intentions that we've planted, then we will see fruits, because that's where we're focusing our energy. And all of the things that come around, like weeds, right, which will show up. We just have to be there every day in the garden, taking them out, weeding them, right? So I do think, yes, you attract good and you attract, you know, things that you don't want. But at the same time, you have the power and the discernment to allow those weeds to proliferate or to just, you know, nip them in the bud.
Yeah. And how incredibly powerful. What an incredibly powerful thing to be able, that we can all do all the time.
All of us.
Amazing, right? We can tend our own gardens and we can root down.
That's right.
I loved the tagline of your book, Crowning Your Inner Queen. Can you speak around that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, you know, crowning our queen within is, you know, each of us is turned away from our bodies on a regular basis. Everything turns us away from who we are. And so, you know, crowning the queen within is about, you know, claiming the goddess within, recognizing that she resides inside of you, letting her out to shine. And and then standing on a pedestal that you built for yourself, like tall, with your shoulders back and, you know, your crown on, right? You know what I mean? So we all deserve this sense of just abundance and of love and then light and of you know, standing in our power, right? Like confidence. We all deserve that. And so, but it's not for anybody to give to you. You have to actually activate it and sustain it yourself, right? This sense from within. And so it's our responsibility to remove the obstacles to that grace. It's our responsibility to step into that power in its fullness and to ignite it in others. Like we can't hoard this light, right? The light belongs to the world. And you're a portal. You're just a passage, right, for that light to come through. And you're on a sacred mission to actually bring work to the world that only you can deliver. And as you do that, light up a path for other people. Yeah. So to me, crowning the queen within is It's saying, it's committing to that. Like, I recommit myself to my mission that I was born with, the mission I was born on and to do. I'm going to carry that out to the fullest. I'm going to stand in my glow power, and I'm going to reclaim my queendom. I'm going to reclaim what is mine, what is my birthright, and not feel apologizing to people or for my existence, or feeling, like I'm not worthy, like not doing those things to yourself, but lifting yourself, right? So that's what it's about. It's about, like, not us waiting for somebody to tell us that we're royal and that we're holy and that we're divine or that we're sacred, but like claiming that for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that my opinion of it is that more and more women are claiming their power, and I feel like it's almost like an archetypal raising of queen, and that's when you talk about it, I literally get goosebumps. I just feel like it's so activating in what you're saying. It's about doing it for yourself and then being the path for others. Who has been the most inspiring or motivating person for you, if you could just name one person on your journey of, owning your glow?
Yeah, my mom, my grandmother, I've had very powerful women in my life. I come from a legacy of really strong women. And, my grandmother recently passed, and she was like a matriarch, soft-spoken but powerful in spirit. She had just like a very interesting way about her, and I take some of her qualities that I was, that I inherited, I think, through like just being around her so much as a child. And then my mom really is a fierce, like, warrior, a lioness. Like, she just fights. She's an Aries, and it's her time right now. We're like in the full moon in Aries, and it's like, this is my mom's time, really intense. And she's taught me a lot about standing up for myself and, saying no and setting boundaries and not caring what other people think. And she's very much like that. So I've learned a lot through the women in my life. And my mom also taught me a lot about self-care. She used to get massages every Wednesday when we were kids. She would, lather herself with creams, and her skin is like impeccable. And so it's like, I learn a lot of things through the way that they looked after themselves as well.
And it's so incredible to hear. And I think so many of us do take on our family, what we learn from our family. And it's amazing that you sound like you come from an incredibly strong matriarch. I've just got this mental image. What is the one thing you wish you knew when you were younger?
I wish when I was younger that maybe I knew that the whole matrix around like beauty industry and, the magazines and all that, like advertising, I wish that I knew that it was like a farce. I think growing up, you look at all these things, commercials and magazines and television and whatever, and you kind of internalize the imagery. And so I think that I was made to think that, my skin type and my hair type and, was not as beautiful. And so it takes undoing, like you have to work on undoing that. Yeah. And so, and even though my parents were really great at affirming me beauty, it just was something that I would see all the time. Yeah. And it wasn't until I really moved to New York where I saw that it was like popular to be ethnic. And I was like, oh my God, like my hair, people like my skin, like it's just wild. I didn't experience that in California. And so I think it would have been nice to know, like, then to see that my son gets to see now of multicultural or of ethnicities that were underrepresented. He gets to see that now in advertising. I never got to see that growing up.
Yeah. And I think it's so important what you're talking about, and I think it's a conversation that should not be shied away from, because I think it's also what you were saying earlier about being able to incorporate women who are previously not maybe visible or being seen. And I think that is part of collective sisterhood, and it
Yep.
should be collaboration instead of competition. And I think anyone who feels like someone's going to come in and take something or do something because of their ethnicity or whatever it is, it's just fear-based crap.